Hello. This is the last and the 12th lesson in the fifth fetter, and it's the final questions before you move on to the sixth fetter. So the idea with these questions, you have them in all of the different fetters, is for you to sit down and reflect on the process that you have been through in the fifth fetter. I can recommend you to get a notebook and to make notes where you write down the questions, pause the video, and then reflect upon yourself. Write down your notes about how it was for you, how that was experienced. And maybe some of the questions are looking into areas that you haven't thought of before and you haven't looked at before. And then, take time in answering the questions. And if you're here for the multiple times, it's not the first time that you have passed the fifth fetter and you're back here because there was more for you to pick up, then obviously the same questions is going to be about a completely different area. So again, take time, pause the video, make notes, and make sure that you answer the questions in order for you to get a deeper insight on what is actually going on regarding aversion and ill will. So the first question: before you worked with the fifth fetter, how did you experience anger, aversion, ill will, annoyance, irritation, resentment, and envy? And what we would like for you to reflect on is, how is that different now? Before you worked with the fifth fetter, and before you looked into this, into the aversions and into the verbal indicators, and before you looked into any of that, how did you experience annoyance, for example, when Janice says something in the work, or your mother-in-law says something, or your sister, or somebody in traffic, or politicians, or whatever. Whenever somebody said something, and the ill will, the fifth fetter, the annoyance, the irritation, the anger, the resentment, when that arose in you, how was that different to now? When we speak with people, then very often they say that beforehand they would just experience blaming, shaming, complaining happening. They wouldn't even think of it was happening. But now they catch themselves when they're in it, knowing that, ooh, this is complaining. You're complaining right now. And then kind of like stopping in their track and reflecting on what is actually going on here. And that is what we would like for you to do with this question. So how did you experience resentment, ill will, aversion, anger? How was that to be in your body before you started to work with the fetters? The next question is, do you see that nothing is missing and nothing needs to happen, and that aversion, anger, ill will, annoyance, irritation, resentment, and envy, they're only diversions? And what we would like for you to reflect on now is obviously that now that fear, anger, guilt, and shame, aversion, ill will, anger, all that is just a diversion for something that is happening in your body. So something is arising in your body, which is really, really icky, and you don't want to feel that. And therefore you react with ill will and aversion. It's where you have that idea of a parallel universe where what is happening right now here, you don't want, you want that instead. As if that is even a choice. You don't want your mother-in-law to talk to you like that. She should be more polite. She shouldn't be that demanding. As if that is even possible. As if that is even a choice on the menu. So how did you realize that feeling of irritation and annoyance and anger and ill will, how did you realize, and how is it to have realized that is just a diversion? Yeah, that's a good question. The next question is, how has your view of truth changed? And obviously, by now you know that whatever you perceive as your truth is only a reflection of your bubble of reality. That there is no one truth. There are just as many truths in this world as there are people. Which means that whatever you perceive as truth, it's only a reflection of your underlying beliefs. So how has that changed? How did it used to be for you when you were challenged regarding truth? What you perceived as truth and what you then saw that other people perceived as truth. How has that changed than you now? How has it changed for you? Is it easier for you to let people be who they are in whatever truth they have? So write that down and really reflect on the concept of truth. And is there such a thing as truth? And that is also tied into the next question, which is, has there been a shift in the importance or the non-importance of truth? The more you work with the fifth fetter, the more you realize that obviously there's no truth. There's no opinions, there's no beliefs, there's nothing, that is truth at all. There's just different perceptions of reality, and not even that is true. Not even that we can rely on. So how has that shifted for you? How did you used to be tied into the perception of truth, and how is it for you to be in the world now? And the next question is, what realization led you to accept people being who they are or where they are? And this is a big one, because the fifth fetter is very much about believing that there is an alternate universe that is much, much better, that something can be different, that other people can be different, if only you persuade them or they act differently, then everything would be great. The fifth fetter is very much about realizing that that is just a delusion. People are who they are where they are. And who are we to know what is the path for their freedom? Nobody would have known this path that you have been on for your freedom. So how are anyone to know what is their path to freedom? So what we would like for you to do with this question is to reflect upon that. What realization did you have that led you to accept other people, who they are and where they are, how they interact in the world? What happened in you that gave you the insight that now Janice can be as Janice is? She doesn't need to change. Janice is completely fine in the world as she is, and you are fine in the world with her being as she is. What insight gave you that realization? And it is a little bit tied into the next question. What used to annoy you most that no longer seems important or relevant? And we all have pet peeves. And there's a reason why that thing is a pet peeve, that thing is particularly annoying. And when you really look into why that is, you get deep insight about yourself, deep insight about your underlying beliefs, about your fear, anger, guilt, and shame, about your upbringing, about the way you view the world, and you get huge insights about that. So what used to annoy you the most that is no longer of any relevance at all? It's also interesting to look into, how does it feel different in the body now compared to how it used to feel? How does it feel in the body when Janice is Janice now compared to previously? Another thing we would like for you to look into is the next question. What is your current experience of or relation to physical pain now? And how does it compare to how you used to perceive it? And that is a very, very important one. Physical pain is a really good one to work with, because one thing is the pain that we experience. Pain is inevitable. Pain is happening. I mean, we stump our toes, or we bang our heads, or we cut our fingers, or pain is inevitable. People leave us and hurt us. Pain is inevitable. But the suffering is not, The suffering is an add-on. And the suffering is what we do. It's what we in Buddhism call the second arrow, or the second dart. That suffering is everything we add to the scenario. So you stump your toe, that's pain. the suffering is, oh my God, you're always so clumsy, or why did you not push the chair in, so now I stumped my toe and it's your fault that my toe hurts, or anything like that. So what is your relationship to pain now? Once you really truly understand that there is no parallel universe, that there is no way that this moment can be any different than it is. Once you truly understand that, you completely let go of the hooks for anything to be any different. And when that happens, it's very easy to be with pain, because pain is just what happens right now. It's not particularly enjoyable, it's pain. But it's not supposed to be enjoyable. It's pain. So how has that changed? How has your relationship with pain changed? Yeah. And how has your political or similar engagement changed? Because when you start to work with the fourth and the fifth fetter, you start to get out of your own way, which means that you know that your opinion has no value over anyone else. Your truth is not more true than anyone else's truth. There is no truth. Which also means that you are no longer a racist, you're no longer a misogynist, you're no longer ageist, you're no longer body shaming, you're no longer any of that. Because you allow other people to be in the world the way they are in the world. You don't hold anything against other people. You know that you have not more value than anyone else. There's no entitlement anywhere, because how could that even be? And that leads very, very often to a change in political view, or a change so you go vegan. How can you believe that you are entitled to kill, and that's okay for you to do, and not for, why is your life more important than the life of a cow or a pig or a chicken or a fish? Why is the life of your pet, your dog or your cat or your parrot or whatever you have, why is that life more important than what you have on your plate in the evening? There's no difference. There's no difference. It's back to the pointer that we had about the mosquito in your bedroom. Knowing that your life is not any more important than any other life. There's no entitlement left. Which means that there's no justifiable reason for you to kill anyone. Who are you to allow yourself and have the entitlement to think that you are, it's okay for you to kill? For you to make that choice? So how has that changed? And it's very much about writing it down so you can see the development that you have gone through. And also realizing that, yes, I actually can see now that I used to be very judgmental. I used to be very, very critical. I used to be very opinionated about refugees, or about Republicans or Democrats, or about, the war, All that dissolves when you work with a fifth fetter, because it's just not potent anymore. You see everyone as beings, and there's no justification for hurting any beings at all. Yeah. The next question. When observing the feeling of anger, aversion, ill will, annoyance, irritation, resentment, and envy, did you discover any deeper needs or traumas that were asking to be heard or validated? And obviously we are asking this question is very rhetorical, because the answer is yes. But we just want you to reflect on it, because you will start to see that whatever underlying belief you had in one area, you have in all areas. If you have a theme about guilt, it's guilt all over the place, at every single aspect. And that is useful for the higher fetters, for you to be really clear on that, yeah, guilt is the theme, or shame is the theme, because as soon as you start to get that, the same physical sensation that you previously would have put a label on and say, this is guilt, or this is shame, or this is anger, now you know that it can't be, because there is no such thing. So when you get that physical sensation, you know, oh, we're here again. There's something physical right now that needs to be held and loved and have compassion and kindness and you know, and just create space for. And I'm going to choose to do that because there's something that needs to be heard. There's a part of me, the little voice comes up of the little one that really needs to be heard, that you're always shaming me, that just needs to be held and be heard. And it's also about really realizing and completely avoiding for future references the bypassing that might happen, because knowing all these things, that fear, anger, guilt and shame, that it doesn't exist and that it's just a label that you add on it, very, very quickly can turn into bypassing. And we don't want you to do that. We really, really want you to feel into the body what is happening whenever shame is happening, let's say. That you know that, this is shame, I feel it right away. Oh, I feel so shameful. Okay, breathe. So allowing to feel it in your body and not, you know, escaping into a story or escaping into the label, but just staying with that physical sensation that you have right now and allowing it to become really, really big, and then really notice, detach the label of shame and really notice, how is this moving about? How is this influencing me? Can I be in a body where I have this contracting or this restricting feeling in my body? Can I be with that right now and just allow it to be as it is? So it's really useful for you to become very, very aware of that. Make notes and reflect on it, because it will keep happening for a while where you feel that. And also 5 years down the line, all of a sudden you will be in a situation, a new layer of the onion is ready to get peeled, and then the same sensation will come up and you go like, oh, hello, old friend. You haven't been here for a while, have you? And then you just allow yourself to be with that experience. And that's why it's really helpful to make notes and to really make it very, very clear, all the reflections and all the insights that you have had during the fifth fetter here. We also would like for you to look into how your views of opinions have changed. It very much goes hand in hand with the first fetter about thought, that you know that there's not a thought that is speaking truth, it's just a thought. There's no feeling or emotions that is happening that is truth, it's just a feeling or emotion. Just like a sight is a sight, and a sound is a sound, and a smell is a smell, and a taste is a taste. There's nothing deeper to that at all. And when you really, truly, truly know that, you also know that whatever another person think or feels, it's just what they are thinking or feeling in their bubble. It's not truth in any way, which means that they can think and feel whatever they need to think and feel in order to become aware of all these things. So how has your view of opinions changed? And that very, very often is tied into the general view of other people and importance of issues that you don't really hold anymore, because it's just everything is different. The way that you view everything is different. And we also would like for you to look into what part of the anger, aversion, ill will, annoyance, irritation, resentment, and envy had that hidden agenda of a better you. And that is where we want for you to really to look into that illusion of a parallel universe where you are a better version than you are here. When you were feeling that resentment and ill will and all of that, and you wanted other people to be different in the world, and you wanted them to change, and you were the one holding the truth, you know, and everybody should just, you know, do what you tell them to do, and then everything would be better. How much of that was actually tied into you pursuing to become a better you, a better version of you? And how how is that connected to the person that you thought you were, in comparison to the person that you now know that you actually are? And I'm saying person in like brackets or, bunny ears. Because by now there is a release of that indirectly and directly self-referential selfing happening. It's much more relaxed now, hopefully. Yeah. And the last question is maybe the most important one. Describe how it felt when you stopped taking anything personal. And that is obviously one of the biggest questions, when you realize, that there's nothing anymore to take personal, because there's no one as that person anymore to take anything, hold anything seriously, or fighting to be right. Yeah. And that was it. That was the lower fives. If you need to take another trip around all of the feathers before we move on to the higher fives, then do that. But remember, watch the lesson about the wheel of identification again, and then you can see how all of them are connected, and that it might be useful for you to start with the higher fives, and that might help you in resolving issues that you have in the lower fives. But that was it. I hope you enjoyed it so far, and yeah, thank you.